Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into a post-All-Star edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. He's the former 14-year MLB veteran, the Orioles Hall of Famer. His name is Mike Bordick. I'm Jerry Coleman. Just a reminder, we're producing brand new content every day on our X page, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and they're all there at Bmore Sports Pod, right there on your screen if you're watching. If not, listen, Bmore Sports Pod on YouTube. When you subscribe to the podcast and show us evidence, you qualify for that $50 gift card from Lido Pizza. And yeah, we still have a few to give away. Again, subscribe at Bmore Sports Pod. We've reached episode number 22, Bordy. We're going to catch up with former Orioles scouting director Tony DiMacio. Also find out how much things have changed with the scouting game. And Mike and I will also sound off about what the Orioles' needs are, or are there any needs? Should they be right in seller's mode right now as we approach the trade deadline? Then Dr. Michael Jacobs stops by for our What's Up, Doc segment, and more bad news with Grayson Rodriguez's elbow. But let's bring in our featured guest. He's sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. They have 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today at pappascrabcakes.com. Tony, so nice to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking the time and being here with us. So the MLB draft just concluded. And before we get into the way things have changed with the draft, what did you think of the presentation? They tried to hold it where they've moved the draft essentially to where they're holding the All-Star game. They held it in Atlanta, and they invited all these prospects, and not one showed up. I think it was a little embarrassing for baseball, but they're trying to emulate, I guess, the NBA and NFL draft.
I don't think that's possible. Yeah, I don't think you can do that. I mean, kids are spread out all over the country. They pretty much don't know when they're going to get drafted, and to go into the draft like that and possibly get embarrassed, and their parents and, their team. I don't think baseball can put on the same show that the NFL does. There's just too many kids involved. Not, the NFL's 7-8 rounds and you're done. NBA the same way, but when you're talking 20 rounds, that's a lot. And I think the kids are staying home more now than they did before because, quite frankly, some kids have gotten embarrassed there.
Yeah, good point. And I'll tell you what, Tony, thanks for coming on the show, man. You and I go way back because one of our first conversations, actually, I think when I first met you, was me grilling you about how come I didn't get drafted. And you have kind of a good story about that, too. You said you put my name in there. But what I'd like to know is, how the heck does a scout actually become a scout? Were you a former player? Did you have baseball experience as a kid? Can you give us a little bit of your journey into scouting?
I started out as an educator. I was a head football coach. I was an AD and a baseball coach. And then I got a phone call. I came to Stanton, Virginia years back to play in the Valley League, the old Valley League. And I got a phone call from the owner of the club one day, and he said, "How would you like to manage the club this summer?" And as you know, when you're teaching, you don't make a whole lot of money. So I said, "Sure, I'll do that. Why not?" And that's how I got back into it. And then, scouts would come in after the draft, looking for guys that hadn't been drafted. And one night, 2 scouts showed up, and as usual, I would give them the lineup card, and if they needed any information, give them the stats and all that stuff. Not really thinking much about it. Prior to that, I had written letters to every major league club because I wanted to get interested in getting into the game professionally, and I had friends that were already scouting. Well, little did I know, I went to Charlottesville, Virginia, to see the state high school all-star games with a guy named Turtle Thomas, who was at Miami. We were managing against each other, and he had played for Chuck Hartman, who was the baseball coach at Virginia Tech and at High Point where he played. So we go to the game, and who shows up but the same guy that showed up that night in Stanton, Virginia, and his name was Paul Snyder, the scouting director for the Atlanta Braves. So I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to go sit down and talk with him a little bit. And because Turtle could visit with Coach Hartman. So I went over and reintroduced myself. He did remember who I was. And we sat the whole game in Charlottesville in oppressive heat. And at the end of the game, he looked at me and said, do you think there's anybody out there that's a prospect? I didn't know any of them. And I said, well, I like the first baseman a little bit, and not knowing he'd been drafted. And I said, I like the kid who pitched at the end a little bit too. Well, he wasn't drafted, but he pitched in the big leagues. His name was Darryl Irvine. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call, 10 o'clock at night, offered me a job.
And you became a scout just like that?
It's just like that. 10 o'clock. He said, I'll give you a 3-year contract, give you a car, you're making less money than teaching. You got to move, and you're going to New England. Like I told Bordick, I said, I don't know if we were in a clubhouse or on the field. I think we were in a clubhouse, and we're talking about the draft. And he said, well, why didn't you draft me? I said, well, I had you on my list. He said, well, if you had you on my list, why didn't you draft me? I said, it doesn't work that way. I said, you could have 5 clubs, 10 clubs, 15 clubs, 2 clubs have you on the list, but that doesn't mean they're going to draft you, because you turn your list in, and whoever's making the picks are the people that draft. And
well, how many people are involved in that? How many people are involved in that? You have your list, you submit your list, I guess, to the GM, and then how many other cooks are in the kitchen looking at that?
Well, actually, you submit your list to the scouting director.
Okay.
He's the one that gets all the information. GMs, when I first started, were not involved much. The scouting director did everything. He made all the picks. And in Atlanta, we had maybe 5 veteran scouts that were in the draft room. That was all. Only one of whom went all over the country. The other 2 or 3 guys were mostly regional guys. Bill White was our cross checker. The old Bill White, the left-handed pitcher. He was the hammer. You know, he was the guy that Paul Snyder listened to the most. And when I took over, I had maybe 5 guys, 2 nationals, 3 regionals, and that was about it. I didn't really want a whole lot of people in the draft room. You know, I think you get too many people in there, and too much information gets out, which is not good.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now I can imagine that kind of draft room with you guys just pounding your heads together, trying to figure out what the organization needs, you know, going over all the players and stuff. A couple years ago, I was actually invited into what I thought was the Orioles draft room. And there were probably 50 people in there with computers all over the place. And, you know, the general manager was out there, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is a lot of information. So times have certainly changed, I think, in that regard. Yeah,
you know, you get too many hands in the soup, you make mistakes.
Yeah, you know? That's for sure. No, that's for sure. As
far as you have to listen to your people. You have to listen to your scouts. You know, they're the ones that are in the field every day. They know the player better than you do. You may go in and see a high prospect and he doesn't have a good day. Well, 2 things you do: either go back, or you listen to your scout. And if he's got that much conviction in that player, then you take him. Eric Bedard is a good example. Jimmy Howard was one of the best scouts I've ever been around, and he was with Baltimore for years. Jimmy knew what a player was. I'd never seen Eric Bedard. We took him based on what Jimmy said. We took John Maine the same way. We took Willie Harris the same way. You know, it goes on and on, but you have to listen to your people. You know, you can't be the sole evaluator on the player. And there's too many people in the room that think they know what a player is, and they don't know what a player is. You know, there's just too many. So
it's interesting. Do you think it's easier now with less rounds, or do you think you know, a few years ago when it was 40 rounds, that was better for the game? And I know you know, earlier we were talking about this. When they dropped down to 20 rounds, that impacted the whole world of baseball.
It did. It impacted a lot of players not being able to get the opportunity to play. And like I said earlier, I think we haven't grown the game like we should. when you eliminate 40 some teams, just think how many players get eliminated. And players have to come from somewhere. The more teams you eliminate, the fewer players you have. And who's going to play at the major league level at some point? It's just, you got to grow the game, and we took away from the game. And it's disheartening to me because a lot of kids aren't going to get a chance. They won't get a chance to play because there's nowhere for them, nowhere to put them when they get signed.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop.
Hello, my name is Reese Friedman, and I'm the daughter of Stephen L. Friedman and Rachel Friedman.
Hi, I'm Reese Friedman, a little bit older from the last time you saw me, but still the daughter of Stephen and Rachel Friedman and the granddaughter of Michael Friedman. Now, I'm here to tell you that the law offices of Michael Friedman are still the experts in the field of personal injury accident law. So if you or a loved one have been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident, I do not want you to hesitate. Call us at 410-363-6848 or email us directly from our website, maflaw.com, for a free consultation. The law offices of Michael Friedman, serving the community for over 40 years.
Jerry Coleman here. I've been a client of the law offices of Michael A. Friedman for well over 25 years now. From motor vehicle accidents to other tort-related issues, 410-363-6848, or find them on their website at maflaw.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
What was the explanation for the reduction in minor league baseball teams? Has there ever been a plausible one, Tony?
I have no idea. I was out of it after it happened.
We're not blaming you.
Sir?
We're certainly not blaming you.
No. I talked to a lot of guys that are still working, some guys that have worked with me and for me and that are still out there. Most of them doing pro coverage now. And I get the same thing from all of them. There's no players.
Wow.
It's position players, especially. They said there's no position players.
I want to ask you real quickly. I want to ask you, how much of a factor was the player's agent in determining whether or not you're going to pursue that player? Was it a factor, especially Scott Boras?
It all depended on the organization and your general manager. When I came into Baltimore, I never negotiated with anybody. I was a scout. Now I get this executive position, which I never thought I was. And we take the first draft. We take Rich Stahl. I took 3 left-handed high school pitchers because that's what we did in Atlanta. I had 3 guys. They were all 6'5" or better, and we took Brian Roberts that draft. I love Brian. I went in and saw him one time, and that was it. I was going to take him. Sometimes you have a gut feeling about a guy. That was my guy. That was my guy, not the scouts guy. I was taking Brian Roberts wherever. Same thing with Nicky Markakis. Wherever it was, we were going to take him. So now I got to go negotiate. I don't know how to negotiate. And I'm really sort of being a hard ass about it. And Frank Wren comes up to me and says, "You can't do that." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because I got to deal with these agents at the major league level." So that's how I broke in. And as it turned out, little by little, I softened up, and I learned how to play the game a little bit with the agents. But I was never afraid to say no. We had limitations in Baltimore. We had limitations everywhere. And if Mr. Angelo said this is enough, then that was enough. And which was fine. I wasn't afraid to walk away from a guy if they wanted too much money and we didn't think they were worth that, then we just walk away. Sometimes the best sign is no sign. So that's what we did. But fooling with the agents was not a whole lot of fun.
I bet. Did you think Markakis, did you have any idea that he might be a pitcher?
I saw him pitch.
And how do you think he would have done?
He would have done great. He had a great arm. But what happened, Mike, when I went to see him, it's interesting. They had a doubleheader. He was pitching the first game. Maybe 20 guys there, 25 guys, a couple scouting directors. First game, he pitches, he wins, he does, he's a prospect. Almost everybody leaves. I went around the block in the car, came back because I wanted to see him hit. I think he hit 3 bombs the second game. All these other guys are gone, and so we draft him, bring him into Atlanta, bring him into Baltimore, before a game, and he's hitting one after another on Utah Street. And he's only like 170 pounds back then. He had a great swing.
Yeah,
he had a great swing, great eye for the ball. And a former general manager from another organization who we were playing that night when he was there hitting came over to me, who I had worked for in that organization, and said, "Who is that guy?" I said, "That's our number 1 pick, Nick Markakis." He said, "Well, I don't even think we had him on the board."
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. You've had a couple great signs, right? There's 2 that are really interesting to me. Chipper Jones, one of the greatest of all time, arguably maybe the greatest switch hitter of all time. And Glavine, you had mentioned Glavine's name. And when you were a New England scout, I mean, finding guys in New England is hard enough. But Tom Glavine wasn't, I don't even know, could he break a pane of glass back then from the left side?
Tommy was a low 3/4 guy back then who had great life to his fastball. He was all over the place. He had a great arm.
Okay.
And he was a great athlete, exceptionally smart guy, and very resilient. And you had to like the athleticism along with the arm strength. And I got lucky. He was the first guy I ever signed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, first one I ever signed.
He was a hockey player too, wasn't he?
He was, he was going to go to the University of Lowell to play hockey as well. And I think he was an academic student athlete of the Boston area. And like I was telling the guys earlier, I was just happy to get a player.
The fact that he was the first, I mean, did that help put you on the radar a little bit, maybe, and open some eyes around baseball?
I never thought about that at all. To me, it was just, I got a player. Now what do I do? Tell me how much money I get to spend, and I got to go up and talk to him. I never really thought about that at all, quite honestly. I got told the guys earlier, in New England, it was tough to get players because there weren't many prospects, and the weather was cold, and you had to make up your mind on maybe 2 games or 3 games at the most, for a pitcher especially. So I liked him. I turned him in. They came and saw him. I guess they liked him enough to take him, and we took him. And I guess the rest is history. And there, but I will tell you something that nobody knows. When I first was hired, they sent me a packet with reports from New England, because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything about this. I opened up the envelope, and the very first evaluation form that I saw was Tom Glavine. The very first name I ever saw in my scouting career was Tom Glavine.
Serendipitous, I think.
How about that? Isn't that something? And the scout that sent it in was Lenny Marolo, the old veteran scout from New England. That was his. He had great handwriting. I remember that. But it was Tom Glavine was the first name I ever saw.
Wow. Well, for all these success stories, I'm sure there's been a few misses, some duds here and there. We don't have to get into names, but was there ever a common denominator where maybe you went back and said, I don't know how I missed on this guy, and maybe it happened again, or was it always different circumstances?
No, I think, we all missed. I missed on a lot, just like everybody.
Sure.
you just do the best you can. That's all you can do. You don't know what's inside of a kid. You just don't, and you don't know what their aptitude is a lot of times. And I used to tell our scouts, find players that can't do without the game of baseball. Find me that kid that can't do without it. Nick Ahmed, Andrelton Simmons, guys like that. Go out and get those guys, because they're going to be first division kind of guys that'll get you to a championship. They may be a little short on tools, but they've got all the intangibles to be surrounded by those few great players, and it'll make them even a better player. And that's what I always told our guys.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about the Dominican Republic. A lot's being mad about this complex, which finally came to fruition. Fortunately, it was years after you left. Were you shut out of the DR? What was going on back then with the Orioles and their international scouting, because it seemed limited?
Yeah, we didn't do much in a Dominican. That organization didn't do a whole lot. I went down there several times. I mean, there were good players down there, but we just didn't do a whole lot. Most of our concentration was here in the States, and at that time, I don't think we even had an international director. We just didn't. Atlanta, we had everything. Cleveland, we had everything. Even Pittsburgh, a few years I was there, we had everything too. But for some reason, Baltimore didn't have it.
Well, the word was the owner just wanted to, go after the Americans and not have much interest in the international field.
Well, the owner's the owner. You listen to the boss.
Yeah.
His team, right?
If the boss wants, it's what you do.
His team. Tony, what have you followed the current state of the game? And I'm talking about the college state of the game, where now you can go to junior college for 2 years and still have 4 years of eligibility. The NIL money has gotten out of control, if you ask me. And it seems like everything's kind of pooled up in the SEC. Now, back in the day, you go to Florida, Texas, or California to get those top shortstops and stuff. But now it seems like everything is down there in the SEC, where that is considered, in my opinion, like AAA. And then, D2 schools might be AA, and, D3 schools, AAA. I feel like they're using college baseball as the minor leagues.
I think that's what the intent is, Mike. The bonus money is out of control. You got guys who are just drafted making $8-9 million. We got guys in the big leagues that may never make that. And they're there. I mean, they went through the system. They had to prove themselves. They're in the big leagues. And you're throwing money out there on guys you don't even know whether they're going to make it or not. It's just interesting how much has changed in the last 10 years. I mean, I was running the draft 10 years ago. That doesn't seem like a long time ago. And we never had that. I mean, the money was higher at that time, but not like it is now. And where's the incentive to play when you make that kind of money? But Mike, you brought up the fact about the SEC. I was told by a scout that the average salary for a shortstop in the SEC was $400,000.
Wow.
NIL money, $400,000.
Okay.
That goes back to what you were saying about not being able to measure someone's heart or what's going on inside their brain. Obviously, when they get that type of upfront money, sometimes motivation seems to flow away.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I agree with that. I mean, if you got that kind of money cash in your pocket, how hungry are you to get to the big leagues? Bordick, think how much money you could have made playing shortstop now at Maine.
Well, I don't know if Maine has NIL money, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would have transferred, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's just changed that much in a short amount of time, and I don't know when it's going to stop. I just don't.
Money rules, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. You got to play the game for the love of the game. I mean, money is important. We understand that, but there's you can only spend so much. And, if you get $8 million and you don't get to the big leagues, to me, you didn't get to the big leagues.
Yeah.
It's not about the $8 million. You didn't get where you wanted to be. And that's where you wanted to be.
Yeah, you got to find that internal motivation for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tony, the last thing I did want to touch on with you, believe it or not, I know someone is a young kid. He wants to get into scouting. I may have him get in touch with you at some point. I haven't run into someone like this, but what would your advice be to someone who wants to get into scouting these days?
I don't know how they get into scouting these days. I guess you got to have a slide rule or something. It's different. It's completely different. I had a hell of a time trying to get in, and I was fortunate that somebody gave me a chance. I used to get resumes by the tons. And I had one guy send me a resume that had 2 chocolate feet in it and said he wanted to get his foot in the door. That's a true story. That happened in Baltimore. So I ate the chocolate feet and they threw the thing in the can. That's where it went.
It's not the kind of
it's hard to get in. I mean, it's difficult to get in. It's a different game now. It's a different kind of scouting. It's showcase scouting. You can't hide anybody anymore anywhere, and you're not. There's no more Legion games and Babe Ruth games and the Park League like in Boston, and I mean, Catholic leagues we used to run in and see. And after the draft, it was like a challenge to all of us in New England to try to find somebody to sign after the draft, But it's different now. It's not like that. Everything is on weekends. You go see showcase this weekend, showcase that weekend. I've got a grandson. It's right now. It's the same thing. And I don't like it, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think it's good for the game.
Well, you've been great for the game, and you've been very insightful here today. We really appreciate you taking the time. You spent an awful lot of time with this, so we're very grateful.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity. I've never done one of these before, and it's been fun. I thought we were on, like you said before, we came on because we were having great discussion.
Yeah, you're the longest guest.
Yeah.
You're the longest guest right now. You've been on here for over an hour.
Unfortunately,
we're only
really
recording for
held
20
you
minutes.
hostage. Yeah.
Oh, this is great conversation. I think we need more of this.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
Scouting directors used to sit in the car. You went in to see a player and you sat in the car with your area scout and you talked baseball and you talked about this and you got to know each other and I used to do it all the time. I couldn't wait to get to California and have a guy pick me up. We'd go eat somewhere and then we go to the games, 2-3 games a day. And they don't do that anymore.
No.
Now they go in and they got computers and nobody watches the game. You got to watch the game, watch the player, watch the game. They don't watch the game anymore.
Speaking the gospel, Tony, appreciate it. We will be in touch.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate you guys having me on, and Bordy, it's good to see you again.
Good seeing you too.
Always.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you,
All
guys.
right, Tony DiMacio joining us here on the Bmore Baseball Podcast. We move on, and he was terrific. Absolutely A+.
More of the Bmore Baseball Podcast coming right up. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks Max MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Our For the Bird segment is always presented by our friends Bordick over at the Maryland Lottery. And playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and the myths at mdlottery.com. And as always, please play responsibly. All right, the trade deadline fast approaching, Bordy. We've spent some time the last few podcasts on this. Since then, all the Orioles have done for the most part is lose more games. Let's talk about who the tradable players are on the Orioles. Who's off limits, first of all, in your mind? Anyone?
Well, I guess Gunner's off limits, but let me preface this by saying if the Orioles are going to have some sustainable success, which I think they have the capability of doing because of how they have so many young players, they have to have a little bit more foresight. So Gunner maybe next year might not be off the table. I say keep him as long as you can, but what you don't want is all of a sudden for it to be a Manny Machado situation where he's lost a little bit of his value. You just don't get the return back. So I think of when the Nationals had Soto and they traded him away and they got a haul. As a matter of fact, most of their team is because of the Soto trade a few years ago. So the Orioles could potentially do that. I would say some of the young guys, Cowser, Gunner, I wouldn't even give up on Adley just yet. Obviously, Holiday. You want that good nucleus, that foundation to stay here. That's what you build around. Guys like O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins, the contracts that are coming up, those are the ones that you really have to look and see if you can get any value out of them. Hopefully, O'Hearn hasn't lost a lot of value. I know just recently he hit, a home run, but it's been a little while, so he might have lost a little bit. But everybody needs a good left-handed bat, and of course, Cedric's glove definitely plays. Could steal some bases in the postseason too. But I think everybody for the Orioles right now should be looked at and maybe keep Gunner off to the side.
Yeah, I think that's a sign that you're giving up. You give away a player of that caliber still under contract. Same thing with a Holiday, even a Rushman or Cowser. But as far as obtaining anyone, is there anyone out there the Orioles should be pursuing? I mean, what would you consider their needs?
Well, it's pitching, man. It is really pitching. And I think if there are opportunities to just continue to pull it in, if the Orioles haven't recognized the importance of pitching, oh my gosh, I don't know if they ever will. Every team in Major League Baseball is going to be looking for some form of pitching, some way to stockpile it. Some teams are going to look for the rental guy. The Orioles have to look for somebody they can keep for a couple years, at least. The Trevor Rogers deal, I know we all looked at it back then as like a terrible thing. He's emerged and pitched pretty well here recently. We just had him on the show, and my gosh, he's flipped out like 8 great starts. So, it's those type of players think, all right, get a younger arm, somebody we can look at for a couple years and hopefully build some, pitching up in this organization. Pitching rules, and that's the name of the game, and I think they should really be aggressive and try to land young arms. I'm talking 23 to 27 years old and be aggressive in that market.
Well, certainly a lot of Trevor Rogers' success this year is attributed to this podcast. He's even admitted that, mostly off the record, but he has admitted that. If we can find that tape somewhere. All right, good stuff there. We'll move beyond Baltimore, and as always, sponsored by Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult and medical cannabis dispensary with 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery, always available for medical patients, compliments of Relief Shop. The All-Star game. Let's get some thoughts because we talked about this going in. I said I didn't mind the players being mic'd up for an exhibition. It drove me crazy to hear Tarek Skubal be interrupted by John Smoltz and Joe Davis, who's been on this podcast. My biggest gripe, though, was you couldn't add one more inning. Players are leaving during the game again. Okay, here's a little bit of a tirade. Maybe it's just a rant, but what other profession besides maybe teaching do you get 3 months off during the off season? 3, close to 4 months. I can't think of many outside of baseball. So these guys got to get off on their vacation. I get it, but they're also, and I'm talking about Ohtani and Judge. They're the faces of the freaking game. They couldn't stick around for the swing off that everyone would like to have seen. Instead, we had a Ray and a Marlin going at it at one point. Nobody knew who they were without a scorecard. God bless Kyle Schwarber. He gets the MVP. Guy didn't even have a hit in the All-Star game. So besides that, it was a fabulous night for baseball.
Listen, man, it's an exhibition game, okay? Maybe next year they tell Judge and Ohtani to stick around because they would be the biggest draw. Kyle Schwarber is a professional home run hitter. That's why he's still in the game. It isn't because of his defense, because he knows how to hit home runs, period. Hands down, he was going to be the winner of that. That's what they practice. Every swing is to try to hit a ball 450 feet.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of what's that?
Pete Alonso was set up to win the MVP, and then Schwarber takes it from him, facing a batting practice pitcher.
No, I know. Hey, I hear you. I think what was exciting about that part of the game, and I'll tell you this, I didn't stick around to watch it live. I saw it the next day, and what got me excited was the other players thought it was pretty cool too. I think
the ones that stuck around, yes, they were
ones that stuck around thought it was pretty exciting. So I don't know if that'll ever work. They're trying to make up an ending to Major League Baseball, and they've tried it with obviously the ghost runner at second base. Kind of driving me a little bit crazy how they're trying to make up stuff. A couple things I did like about the All-Star game: the strike zone, the automated strike zone. I thought it was okay, man. I don't mind that. I thought challenging it was kind of cool and entertaining. Seeing Manny get rung up on that changeup that was all over the plate, I thought was pretty cool. And to hear the pitcher and catcher interact when the big dumper was back there and Scooble was on the mound and they were talking, pitching back and forth, I thought that was so captivating to me. Scooble is hands down the best pitcher in baseball right now as far as a monster guy. He looks like a Clemens from the left side, dominant stuff. And to hear him kind of talking with the catcher, what he wanted to do, I want to throw a change up here. Well, I was thinking about, okay, let's do it, man. I just trust in them because that's how these guys think. They can't obviously verbalize it on the mound, but this is what they're thinking. Now, I don't know if Kershaw was exactly thinking when he was talking. He was just having fun. You talk about a great pro that is enjoying his, swan song. That was fun to watch. He deserved every second of it, and I love how they came out and got him too.
Oh, well, that was well orchestrated. They should have won a Tony Award for but the way Dave Roberts came out for Kershaw. Then it was Freddie Freeman. I was waiting for Ohtani, but Scooble, I just like to see him work. I don't need to hear everything, but it shows how jaded and what a curmudgeon I am to hear a former Major League ball player like you say how enthused and enthralled and interested he was in that conversation. Well, I'm thinking, shut up already and throw the ball. Yeah. Anyway, the automatic ball strike system, too, I want to add, it does humiliate the umpire to a degree once, you see how bad of a call he had made.
Yeah, well, I'm not losing any sleep over hurting an umpire's feelings, okay? Because they hurt my feelings for a long time, man. Yeah, hey, you got to get it right. And I think we're finally understanding that, yeah, okay, it's human the nature, but golly, they're starting to get so precise with the calling and that edge of the corner. If it just touches the box, it's a strike. Maybe they got to work on the strike zone for the taller hitters. Who knows? But I think it's going to be coming. It's coming soon, maybe next year.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get to the doc. He's been waiting patiently. What's up, Doc? As always, sponsored by the law offices of Michael A. Friedman, my personal attorneys for over 25 years. There's always a live person when you call the law offices of Michael A. Friedman, and that would be 410-363-6848. That's 410-363-6848. Dr. Michael Jacobs, former Orioles team doctor for over 3 decades. It feels like, the same old song. We're talking about Grayson Rodriguez. We're talking about another setback with the elbow. It looks like for a second straight year, he'll finish it on the injured list. The latest being inflammation. What's the next step here, Doc?
It's fairly sinister that they have to shut him down again, and I doubt that'll pitch again this year, since the Orioles do not look to be in any kind of significant playoff position. And the fact of the matter is, only the team with the scans knows exactly what's going on, of course. But they're making clear it's not his Tommy John ligament, which is good news and bad news, because despite the year off, at least there's a fix to it. More likely than not, he's having continuous, what they call bone edema in the back of his elbow or his olecranon. And they don't know exactly what to do with this other than rest it. If you get too much edema there, if that's what he has, you can end up with an olecranon fracture where the elbow just pulls off a piece of bone. And that essentially ended Lowen's career. If you remember, Lowen the big 6'7" lefty we had. He fractured his olecranon, and actually Dr. Andrews tried to fix it, but it was never right. And those kinds of chronic MRI changes that are consistent with the patient having discomfort there's only so much you can do for that. So I suspect he's been around the country to see one or two of the other top docs, and they're all in the same position of you can't do anything but rest it. And unfortunately, in orthopedics, units of rest start at 4 to 8 weeks. So in terms of an active baseball season, that kind of puts him out. My concern with him, since this is a relatively new symptom for him, is it is all related to the change in his mechanics he made in the offseason. And the question is, who actually initiated that? I actually tried to get some information on that in spring training, and I got completely shut out by everybody I knew. So it's hard to tell if he did that on his own or if that was part of the analytics department doing mechanical evaluations of him, trying to minimize so-called the stress on his lat. But it is a fairly sinister situation because he's just so far behind now. It was one thing when he was 19, 20, putting weight on, developing, becoming a monster pitcher. But now he can't stay on the mound. And if I'm guessing he's just got bone edema in his olecranon, and they don't want his olecranon to fracture. And I think they're really they're in a tight spot now. If there was a fix, it would have happened. I'm sure he's seen all of the usual suspects around the country. So right now, I think it's clear they don't have any clue as to what to do next.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be what? I mean, it's since last July when he pitched. So it's been a year.
Well, that was a different injury. That was the lat injury, which happens.
Right.
Muscles heal. Okay. And that's not a sinister thing. But this posterior elbow pain, and they've been calling it from triceps tendonitis to inflammation. I'm sure he's got a little arthritis in the back of his elbow, as all pitchers do. The final common pathway for this is an arthroscopic evaluation. And I can think of one player I had who had a similar finding in his shoulder. And the problem was he was kind of a 4A player, and he was playing year-round for 3 years. And all he really needed was rest to take an off season. And every time I try to give him rest, he wouldn't do it because he wanted to make himself more marketable. So finally, he went to one of the younger doctors around the country who was trying to make a name for himself. And he scoped his shoulder and had a completely negative scope. But that finally made him take 2.5 months off, and he was fine. So I suspect this will end up in an elbow arthroscopy, which may or may not help him because you'll never know if the time off helped him or the surgery helped him. But the final common pathway at the end of the season, or if the season's finally given up on, will probably be to arthroscope his elbow. But when I used to give a lot of lectures on surgery, I used to have a slide that's when you explore a joint, when you're not sure what you're looking for, right? The slide used to say changing the air in a joint doesn't help. And, if you're just going for a fishing expedition, with all of the scans we have today, if you really can't come up with a diagnosis, it's pretty unusual to find something on a direct view. But I think he probably has bone edema, and they're just worried that he might fracture his olecranon. That would be my best guess.
Hey, Doc, before we go, did that pitcher you were referring to have a name?
I cannot give you that
I didn't think so.
It actually was the pitcher who had the olecranon fracture was Adam Lowen. That was a well-known fact.
Okay.
The other player was a position player, and I cannot give you his
That's
name.
the name I was looking for. His name is Dr. Michael Jacobs. We appreciate him. Brought to us by the law offices of Michael A. Friedman. We appreciate their sponsorship and all our sponsors out there.
They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland.
Hello, my name is Reese Friedman, and I'm the daughter of Stephen L. Friedman and Rachel Friedman.
Hi, I'm Reese Friedman, a little bit older from the last time you saw me, but still the daughter of Stephen and Rachel Friedman and the granddaughter of Michael Friedman. Now, I'm here to tell you that the law offices of Michael Friedman are still the experts in the field of personal injury accident law. So if you or a loved one have been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident, I do not want you to hesitate. Call us at 410-363-6848 or email us directly from our website, maflaw.com, for a free consultation. The law offices of Michael Friedman, serving the community for over 40 years.
Jerry Coleman here. I've been a client of the law offices of Michael A. Friedman for well over 25 years now. From motor vehicle accidents to other tort-related issues, 410-363-6848, or find them on their website at maflaw.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at lidopizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Also, thanks to senior executive producer Chip Franklin for putting this latest episode together. I've been told not to make fun of Chip, cut down on the joke. So I'll just say, grow some hair, Chip. And we'll see you next week. Be kind, be real, and make sure to be back next week for another episode of the Bmore Baseball Podcast, if Chip allows it.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.